Good morning and welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Messina Morris, and it is truly an honor to welcome you to this Gatherverse Men's Health Summit Roundtable. As a daughter to a father I deeply adore, a wife, a mother of 5 sons, a sister, and a professor to over 2,500 young Black men at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, this conversation is personal for me on every level. You see, men are the backbone of our families and communities, yet so many carry their burdens quietly without spaces to rest or heal. At Morehouse College, we delivered the first content of its kind to our students in men's health in the biology department through Dr. Ethel Vereen. And it was a space where we could gather. Today, we are also creating that space, one rooted in truth, innovation, and compassion. I'm grateful to our brilliant panelists for joining us as we explore how XR and creativity can expand what wellness looks like for men everywhere. So let's lean in, listen deeply, and begin this powerful dialogue. Hi, gentlemen. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm going to
Hi.
give you an opportunity to please introduce yourself to our audience. Liam?
Hi, I'm Liam Broza. I'm the founder of Companion Intelligence, and I'm helping make personal AI that helps people make better choices in an overloaded world. So,
Thank you, Liam. Jeff?
Hello, my name is Jeff Crawford, and I'm the founder and CEO of 824 Solutions. What we do is we use XR and AI to train skilled trades in a holistic view to serve underserved communities. So I'm really excited. This is a passion of mine. So I'm very excited and honored to be part of this panel.
Thank you. And Sanjeet?
Hi, I'm Sanjeet. I'm a machine learning engineer at Elite CAD Designs. What we do is use emerging technologies to help out building operators and building maintenance work and construction workers using emerging technologies for really improving day-to-day activities for daily building tasks.
Awesome. So we have brilliant minds in the building. I love it. We're going to begin our discussion about immersive environments. In what ways can immersive environments redefine how men approach their wellness? Liam?
men neglect their wellness, but yeah, and only really when things go horribly wrong. I I I like many people, work in the tech field, and it's super awful how people treat themselves, especially around a computer, uh, uh, and how easy it is to not um, do the basic things of eating right, exercising, stepping away, keeping a good routine. I've been a manager the last few years, and a lot of what I've been doing is just trying to convince people to step away from the work, go take a nap, go eat something, go get back into routine, because the modern life is deeply against you, and and you have to fight back with building good habits and being proactive. Yeah.
I certainly agree with you, Liam. I know one of the things that I am hoping that all of this emerging technology is able to do is to train us on how to be more human. And that's going to take a big push from us as human beings to stand up and say, hey, like you're doing with your coworkers and colleagues, take a break, step away. We still need to eat, sleep. We still need to engage with our families and communities. Jeff, how do you think immersive environments can redefine how men approach their wellness? Because, see, I have sons and a husband, and they game out of control, and they are all in tech. So you tell me. You're on mute, sweetheart. Unmute.
Sorry about that. I didn't want to have loud background. No, I have two boys, 24 and 17. I do mentorship with boys in that age group. So I think it's a two-tiered kind of impact. I think the actual true physical impact is most of the things that you're doing with immersive technology. For example, us using virtual reality to do skilled trade training, how to be an automotive technician, that forces you to move. And what I know a lot of time is when folks are moving, motion is emotion. And so I think when you're doing things like that, it's going to create you being physical. And so to even advance it a little bit more to what Ling had spoken about, I don't know if you guys ever did the boxing in a virtual reality, but man, you have to be an Olympian to do that. And so just the physical machinations of an immersive experience forces you to kind of move. I think that's critical and very surface level. I think at the next level, it's your sense of engagement and belonging, right? I think what happens when you're in it, a lot of people like to just put on their headsets and kind of stay enclosed. But when you have an immersive experience, there's a lot of things that you can do in that can kind of supplement. So for example, I know a lot of times when people use AI, they ask a lot of questions about things they want to do. When people have information and power and knowledge and can get it accessible without having to go through a lot of different hoops of resources. And so you've already had something already created and experience is created. I think that also exacerbates that. And so it gives them that sense of connection and empowerment when they can kind of do and learn and see something.
I love it. Sanjeet, how do you think that immersive environments can redefine wellness for men?
So first of all, immersive environment, I think it's just a way to it's a great way to just escape your current scenarios and situations of life and just take a break for once. Like, for example, if your people are coming from work, they're stressed all day, they have families. So I think virtual reality, especially now, you engage in an immersive environment, you're just in a whole nother realm. I look at it, whole nother world. And this world could be anything. Could be like a place where you just play games, stand up and play games, or like have some exercise type environment where you move around just to get your whole mental health and wellness is back on track. One area, especially in VR right now, especially back when I was actually back in my college days when I was interning for this startup known as Enable Games, we were using virtual reality technologies along with motion tracking technologies to improve rehabilitation for patients with neurological disorders such as cerebral palsy or multiple sclerosis or seizures and Parkinson's. So what we did was create different VR immersive experience games that people can play and regain mobile control and mobility. So really, in virtual reality, it can really, for especially males, especially, it's common in male psychology to be really stressed out about so many things or get paranoid or freak out. I'm sure we all know that. Being a male myself, that I have that problem all the time. But with VR, the minute you put on that immersive headset, it's like all your problems are gone. It's like everything is gone. You're just escaping in another world. But at the same time, you're back in reality at the moment, and you're just experiencing things that are just unique. And there's so many unique tools in virtual reality, whether it's games or calming techniques that can really just help you just stay grounded and stay well and just come back to the moment and just stay relaxed.
One of the things that I really love is that it allows for you an opportunity to redefine who you are. At Morehouse, we had an opportunity to do mindfulness practice in VR. So we had meditation Mondays in the metaverse, and I found that to be extremely powerful for our young men to be able to just go into another setting and fully show up authentically as themselves. They didn't have to worry about what they looked like. Their avatar was perfect. They didn't have to worry about how they sounded necessarily because it was, even though you had presence, it wasn't in your face. So moving on from that, how do you think that extended reality technologies especially can help men talk about well-being in a space that feels safe and unjudged? And I ask that because in the spaces that we've created and I have created, and even the work that I've done with other demographics, VR seems to put them in a mindset that says, I am safe here. So can you explain how that is, Sanjeet, Jeff, Liam, anybody can jump in?
Yeah, well, in the VR world, it's like it's your own unique world. That's the thing. You're in an own unique virtual environment. It's your world. It's nobody else's. And really, it's like it's a space, especially the metaverse, should be a space where you can just talk about anything you want without feeling unsafe or being judged. And especially with virtual avatars and AI, especially the companion, especially now look at ChatGPT. You can kind of use ChatGPT as your own therapeutic
Right.
purposes. And the good part about it, it's non-biased. It's not going to judge you. There's also another good company that's using immersive technologies, founded by Oculus co-founder Brendan Areve, known as Sesame AI. They're creating virtual avatars through smart glasses or phones that you can actually have a phone conversation with, and it sounds like you're talking with an actual human, but it's really an AI avatar you're talking with. That's really giving you a space where you can feel non-judgmental, non-judge, and really just giving you therapeutic advice and for your own well-being, and just it's acting more like a tool that you can go to just to calm yourself down. And now apply that whole AI avatar with virtual reality in the virtual world. You have that old space to yourself with the AI avatar that can kind of do your own, you can have that own free space and do your own talking. You could talk about what's on your mind, what you're feeling, what you're stressed about, and it won't judge you. And especially with some of the latest tools that ChatGPT, OpenAI provides, some of their APIs and other technologies, you can integrate that into your own virtual world, and it's really amazing.
You know what I find to be quite amusing about being a mom of boys is realizing that how sensitive you all are. Men are very sensitive, and you don't speak about the emotion that you go through because you are to appear as this strong person in real time. And so a lot of suppression of emotions takes place, but that doesn't mean that you don't feel very deeply. So being in a safe space is really important for the growth and development, I think, especially now that technology is everywhere and so accessible in ways that it hasn't been before. And men are great adopters of these technologies. But you know what? Even though you all golf together, you all play football together, you all do all these things together, you still don't talk about your emotions. So being in that environment, Sanjeet, like you were saying, is like where you find a safe space, where you have an AI avatar, is actually a way of pulling you all through therapy. Jeff, what do you think about that? About what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think your insight is definitely coming from a mom in that perspective. I think what I can certainly say is that men certainly do talk about their emotion, but I think we do it in a way that's through something. And so to kind of segue this all together, the gaming community, I have realized, is a very tight-knit community. You talk about the Discord groups, and it is a very tight, with that self-governed, self-rule. So it is like a fraternity. And I don't mean that in the form of gender, just in the form of the brotherhood. And so, so gaming naturally, so just, I know you say you're a mom. I know, what do boys like to do? They like to play Madden, K2K, all this stuff. And so if I'm having a bad day, bad moment or whatever, I might have an emotion, and I might call up my buddy and we go and play Madden together and just play for 2 hours and just talk trash. And that is the way we're handling our emotion. And then sometimes there's a conversation or two. The other thing I'd like to point out as well is that one of the biggest things I think would cause men the ability to not be able to communicate is there's a lot of distractions, things getting pulled our way, and that's with everybody. And I think with virtual reality or any kind of immersive technology does, it makes it very myopic. You block a lot of it, so it's not like you got people pulling you here, people pulling you there. And so I know one of the biggest things with the young men we mentor is them on their phones, and they're always distracting it from something we're trying to mentor them on. Well, guess what? Their phone is the vessel that they're using for the interaction. So it becomes not even a distraction. It's a way to communicate. So I'll give you a classic example. I have a friend group, and we're some very viral men, and we had a group text for a period of time, and then when COVID hit, everybody kind of got on the Zoom thing, and we always talked about how weird it was for men to be looking at each other in the eye on the video. Fast forward today, we do it at all the time. I've never seen a bunch of grown men FaceTiming each other. So technology has even softened the way men communicate as well. So I think we're seeing it progress, but these environments are safe, like everyone has said, and with it being kind of distraction free, and getting, that's what men do. They go into groups or places, and we coexist with each other.
What do you think, Liam?
Yeah, I'm always pushing for real interactions. I was part of a team that built social 3D web worlds, and we had a lot of communities use it as a space. And I'd have to just echo everything we talked about before. There is something very liberating where you can go in and be anonymous, or re-embody yourself in the way that you don't look in the real world, and take on a new personality. I see a lot of people, they would literally act out characters, like get out of themselves, and work through things. A lot of what I think gaming is it's the escapism is like fantasy fulfillment, and it allows you to do all sorts of things that you can't do in real life, and be violent, be supernatural, be all these things as a venting space. In my current projects, I'm very much trying to build very hyper-personal AI that people can interact with, and we've embodied them in 3D characters, and it's really made our team pause, because I don't want people to have deep relationships with AI. I want the AI to be a place of reflection and then push you back into real relationships as fast as humanly possible. And there's probably the best documentary ever about the metaverse is We Met in VR, which I believe is still on HBO. You should definitely check it out. And it talks about all the great things in there. And there definitely should be a sequel, because now there is AI in places like Second Life and VR chat and elsewhere. And I'm always trying to figure out what is the balance here, because I want because I do see all the abilities. I love VR. It allows me to connect with my friends that are not here anymore. Like I live in LA. Most of my friends left during COVID. They went all around the world, and the only place I see them is in the virtual world. And it really helps me, because I actually, when I'm in VR chat or walkabout golf or whatever I'm doing with them, I can feel the presence that I cannot feel over a Zoom call. But it's no substitute. Yeah.
So interestingly enough, I had several other questions about thoughtful design, but we kind of talked about that a little bit, helping technology listen to and care for people's well-being. We also kind of talked about creativity being the bridge between innovation and empathy. What I want us to dive into that kind of hinged a little bit on this subject is the distinguishing simulation from genuine healing. Like, how do you transfer that escapism, that therapeutic safe space? How does that transfer over into the real world? And can we build parameters within these environments that, like you said, Liam, it pushes you to have more human relationships, that the NPC, instead of building one with you per se, it says, so take this conversation back to your mom, or take this conversation back to your wife, or back to your job. How can we build in spaces where these skills of communication are transferable and make you more human and more in tune emotionally with your empathy, your compassion, your ability to navigate the world? What do you think about that, Liam? Like, how can we do that, and what can we do to do that?
The best analogy for this stuff I've always heard is training wheels, right? It should be treated like somewhere between training wheels and like a safe space of reflection. And I think time is a good measure. Like if you're spending a couple hours a week in a virtual world, you should probably spend the same amount of time in the real world. If you're, try to pace yourself. That's generally like a lot of what I see in really good design of systems is just like YouTube and Roblox. They're starting to tell you to take a break. They're literally monitoring, the designers are monitoring the users and trying to enable parents, friends, whatever, to apportion time. So I all things in moderation, I think, is probably just a good, easy, axiomatic way that we can, and this is things we need to build in as a design, like is actually to encourage people to not overuse whatever space you're building, so.
That also brings us to design in general, designing these immersive environments that actually deepen presence and doesn't just distract. Jeff, do you have any thoughts around that? Sanjeet too. You all can, whoever wants to go first to jump in on that, but like, how do we make sure that these immersive environments are deepening presence?
So
yeah. Well, you guys said you.
Oh no, please, Jeff. Oh, please.
Okay, Sanjeet, I'm gonna pick you because I'm a teacher. So, Sanjeet.
All right. So it's really when to talk about deepening the presence in an immersed environment rather than distraction. You really have to know like what really makes the other person excited in the VR environment, because there could be a lot of distractions. So how do we deepen this in the present? It's really about creating a whole different environment. It's like creating game levels where a person is in, and then they're in an environment where they can just see. In a VR environment, it should be feeling like, because it's like it's so generic, you can be like doing whatever you want in a VR environment. It should be like, I'm in this environment, I want to be able to talk about what I want to talk about, connect with others online in VR, or go in an environment where I can just be myself. Like, for example, a deepening presence such as like mindfulness in VR, how to deepen the connection between the brain in VR and the body. That's like one way without feeling distracted, and maybe having like soothing sounds that kind of like help people just calm down. Because especially in VR, I know there's been a lot of simulations where they're using audio and sounds along with EEGs to understand brain synchronization in VR, that can understand a deepening presence of like connecting with others around the world. One research actually I did with the University of Auckland in New Zealand was trying to understand interpersonal communication using brain synchronization and hyperscanning for online counseling. And this was around pandemic, because pandemic, a lot of people were struggling deeply with mental health challenges, not being able to interact. So we created a system where comparing how real life users interact and then trying to get all this data using AI algorithms and data analysis, and trying to create constructive virtual worlds where users can interact the same way from different locations, and understanding how they make eye contact, how they gaze with one another, and how their brain synchronizes and hyperscans to understand more about what goes on in an interpersonal connection in a virtual environment, deepening the connection between users and machines. And the way we call this is a human computer interaction, because really we're getting humans through machines to interact with one another. Another area this is known as is also empathic computing, trying to understand human regulation and human emotions through emerging technologies.
I like that you put the real technical jargon to what we're trying to explain. As a machine learner, learning engineer, I really could appreciate that, because that research matters when we're talking about how to create these immersive environments. I know for us at Morehouse, it was a time during the pandemic where our students could gather and they otherwise couldn't. And it was such a powerful experience to see their reactions as they spawned onto a digital twin of our campus. So our campus was built by Victory XR, and they're our EdTech partners, but they created a digital twin of Morehouse College, and we've had commencement services and Candle in the Dark galas and all of these different activities that happen on this campus. But what was most enlightening was that no matter where our students were around the world, they felt the presence of, like, me being in that environment with them, being in a familiar environment, which is home to them, because college is home, right? For our students, and seeing how they really came alive and wanted to show up fully present in these environments. Jeff, what do you think in terms of how we can design immersive environments? For us, it was our digital twin. What do you think?
So I think it's two things. I think on the back half of it, I think you have to increase the real life situations in which this technology is used, as opposed to just isolating to one place where this person were to use. So it's like, for example, if you want people, 90% of people, I think, I'm just talking loosely, 90% of the folks that have electric vehicles, they do it at home, right? But if there was easier or more effective ways for them to do it outside of that, maybe people would adopt the use of EV more. So what I mean by that is, for example, you if you have a real life situation where, for example, you're creating a metaversity for Morehouse College and you're trying to have somebody get integrated into what college is like, by you having a digital twin of Morehouse, that is as real as it gets, right? That's the technology is designed for you to feel like, and like I say all the time, I go to Universal Studios every year with my family. Spider-Man is like my favorite ride. And I know every time at the end we go down all the way, and I know at the end nothing's going to happen. But every time I feel the emotion like it's real in that experience, even though I know what the outcome's going to be. So the technology itself, and then applying it in real world situations. So if you're doing a skill training, you're not going to have ways to deviate and go away from it. We build the technology that learner's single focused on the task at hand, and we do it in ways that we know that the learning they like to do it. You know, people like to learn by themselves. They like to learn with peers, and they like to learn from professionals. And with technology, we can do all of that at once. We could put expertise in there, and they can do self-paced, and they can do all that. So that's about as real as I think it can duplicate. Whereas in a classroom or a real world environment, they're in a classroom learning actual things, but they're not physically. So I think you can do more real world applications when it's applied in everyday life. That makes sense.
That makes sense. And we have seen that our students are less distracted when they're in these immersive environments. They are more tuned into the work, and we've seen them achieve more. So increased grades, increased attendance, increased engagement, and having fuller, richer learning environments makes it better for everyone, because questions get asked that never probably would have gotten asked before and answered as well. So students are able to really freely engage with the material in ways that they otherwise wouldn't. And we're able to actually give them these experiential learning experiences all over the world, back in time, through the human body, that they otherwise wouldn't get. One, because we have limited resources, but two, because it's not possible to go inside of a human heart or to see the molecular world, but in immersive environments, you can. So how do we define real, even when the body reacts to what the mind imagines? How is real defined, and how do we create? So I have a son that has autism, and I always ask people who design these scenarios. He already has a hard time distinguishing what's real from what's not real. How do we make sure that there is a safeguard of sorts for him, especially now that AI is more is powering these environments more and are part of the world? But how do we define real now that you can actually react to a simulated environment as if it is real?
Yeah, I would say that type of dissociation is a real problem. You know, I when I started, almost a decade ago doing this stuff, I think I was much more freewheeling, in the sense that I was like, how this is just video games plus, it'll only be better. And I think as time goes on, and I've become much more cautious and reserved in my judgment. It's just, the statistics are pretty jarring of how plugged in we are, and the I think it's something like men spend 2 or 3 times as much time playing video games as they do going to the gym or exercising or something like that. I read that recently.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that we all need to hone on is not this junk food experiences, but that everything that we build is like an extremely concentrated experience, like temporally and quality wise, and it's very thoughtfully made, and that we only consume that content the same way that like people would only want to consume good like you don't want to eat junk food, and that's the way we should definitely treat it. Very discriminating. So yeah. Hopefully that taps on it. Kind of, I would say, as a foil to real, I would say we should look for things that are healthy, and everything that I think is like dissociative and escapative is the thing that is I think what we're all trying to fight against.
Exactly. And what's interesting is I was just like you, early adopter, someone really fired up and excited about all that this technology can do. And then I went back as an educator and I started really thinking about some of the other ways in which we've kind of fumbled technology, and maybe we should tread a little bit more carefully when we start thinking about these things. And so I think about social media and how Web 2.0 kind of came onto the scene. And as a person who was an adult already, when social media came about, it was, I get to connect with my friends from elementary school and high school and college. And so it's so exciting. And I didn't realize that our young children, as they were connecting and their undeveloped minds were going through these spaces, this became the real world for them in a way that we understood it wasn't. They weren't able to distinguish that. And so a lot of lives and a lot of mental health issues arose during this time where we weren't really necessarily aware of the harms that being in Roblox, being in Minecraft, being on Fortnite, yelling at your friends, being on social media, having people bully you through these connections, because you are young and you're a kid, and kids do not so smart things, and not really having any guardrails in place. So asking this question is really like, how do we continue to monitor and define what is real for our young people so that we don't go through now being in this immersive real-time 3D worlds where people are totally out of tune with what is real, and that humanity still matters. Jeff, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think 2 things I thought of when you said that. One, I think what makes things real are consequences. And number 2, I think in order to elicit those consequences, there has to be, number 2, oversight, right? So I think some of the things that you had just mentioned, for example, what happens in Roblox or what happens in Fortnite, that typically is a lack of oversight.
Correct.
As opposed to the tech, and so I think,
Instagram,
for example,
just coming out with teen accounts. How long has Facebook and Instagram been around? And now you're starting to see the harmfulness that has been done and the lack of oversight, because every parent wasn't necessarily aware of these things. So what I'm saying is similar to what you're saying, Jeff. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and if there's real life consequences, so whatever world they're in Roblox and they do said behavior, the outcome, the consequence of that is some real life application. So that's if it's a positive thing. So for example, you go into this world, you spend this many hours, but you come out, you achieve homework or you do whatever, there is positive consequences to that, right? So you can equate time in, let them self-discover what's real, right? And then your job as the person overseeing them is to guide them down the path through consequences of what's those real consequences will, I think, help. So for example, I'm just using exaggeration. If someone thinks that Grand Theft Auto is real,
oh my God,
there's going to be a consequence to someone doing that. But for example, if my son wants to go shoot up the school or something like that because he saw it in Grand Theft Auto, my oversight should be there to know that if he's been playing that game and doing that, and that hopefully I'm involved in a situation where I would make sure that doesn't happen. So if that makes any kind of sense. I just wanted to use an extreme to say the consequence of their behavior will make it real. And then that way, when they engage these environments, I think that's what they're going to have to, and they'll figuring it out on their own is, I think, the most effective way.
So, Sanjeet, do you think as a machine learning engineer and someone who designs these environments and these systems, do you think that there should be built-in code and parameters that highly create disclaimers? I mean, like loud disclaimers, not the small fine print, but big
Absolutely.
enough.
There's absolutely, especially in a virtual environment, there should be ethical concerns and code of conduct that should always be followed, especially like I know Jeff brought up Roblox, for example. Like Roblox has like become an whole online interactive gameplay that people can do a lot of things, but you know what they may do in the virtual world may not be real in the real world, but some of the actions they may do or some of the way they like, you know, diss each other or harass each other, that's
Yeah.
real. And that's not unpreventable in a virtual environment too. Like, so for example, let's say I'm wearing a VR headset right now. I'm in a virtual world. All right, everything looks real. We know it's not real. It's just a simulation that my mind is tricked into believing it's real. But as I'm playing a game, and then there's other or in an online world interacting with other people, and then someone comes up and starts harassing me or harassing somebody else. That action is very real. So it's like we need to be able to connect about what's immersively real and what's not okay, because harassment in VR, especially nowadays, it's not uncommon. It does happen. There have been complaints about it. People do complain to Meta about this type of stuff.
Correct.
These are things I think we need to be able to like differentiate, and especially about what the mind imagine and what feels real. So gaming in the actual virtual world, it may feel so real, but then when other people come, you know, like harassing you or like doing things just like, you know, people do cyberbullying, for example, that stuff, then that stuff is absolutely real, and it's no longer like what's real and what isn't real. It's about ethical concerns and taking action and, you know, making sure that this world, that we're in a safe place, because the whole purpose of VR is you're trying to be in an environment where we can just unlock so much human machine perception. We're trying to really create a world where not only where people can gather, and really personally from a perspective I see VR is, I see this technology, we can enhance and unlock so many cures, so many things to diseases, so many things to curing mental health, treating conditions, and changing the way we interact and socialize in immersive gameplay, immersive world. That's really, I see it mostly for social good, but there are people then, of course, who do try to bend the rules and try to make it a little bit, you know, unsafe.
So, speaking of which, our next question was what makes a digital environment feel safe? And because we're getting near the end of our conversation, just what one accessibility feature or piece of technology or something that you all as men feel like would make a digital environment more safe? Liam, you're muted.
I'm crazy about privacy. That's the thing I generally am. You know, I look at all these worlds, and there's a lot of moderation. Like if you're on Horizon or things like that,
Right.
There's people listening to you and watching you that you can't see. They actually prompt you this when you actually join these platforms. They tell you, oh, by the way, even if you think you're not in the room, you think you're in the room alone, you're actually not. And I think there needs to be a virtual platform that takes privacy seriously. I don't really know of one that exists right now. If there is one, I'd let somebody reach out to me.
Well, I
But
think
it's
the education ones do, just because we have to, right? So they're locked
indeed, yeah.
down. So Victory
But
XR's platform like that is locked down. But for
well, then
social,
that is one, and there needs to be more. But yeah, that's the one I would highlight is the privacy in a big way. Yeah. So
Sanjeet,
yeah.
Sanjeet, what do you think?
So in terms of like a digital environment feeling safe, Like I have to agree with Liam. Privacy, that's the main important thing, to be honest. I like, for example, in a VR world, I don't want other people to know where I am. I don't want other people to know anything about like private information. When I like sign up for a VR account, I don't want people to know like my demographics or my location, where I am.
Right.
And then anywhere I go in VR world, like keeping track of my spatial coordinates, I don't want that getting recorded and then stored somewhere that other people can access that. And then conversations I'm having in the metaverse, whether through an online gameplay or whatever, I don't want those conversations getting recorded. I want all that stuff just kept to myself while I'm enjoying in VR.
So how do you feel about digital environments like Discord or Twitch or all of those other places where there's like long chats and threads of everything that you say and go back and forth, even blogs and vlogs like you comment on, even when we get on social media or like LinkedIn, for instance, everybody can see a comment that you placed under someone else's comment. So it's like, is the interaction really real and enriching? Are people really being authentic, or are people having to play the hide themselves game and what connections I don't have because of that? I'm just curious. So I'm just throwing it out there. But what do you think about safety, Jeff?
Yeah, I think anything else other than privacy, I think will cause a lot of consternation, because I think it will come to show that it's not controllable, or it will cost a significant amount of time and resources. So I agree. I think the privacy piece would be a very important piece of it. And I think also, I also think there's an element that doesn't need to have that component in it. There needs to be some version of, you want to make it as safe as possible. But in this world of helicopter parenting and things like that, I would be mindful of kind of the environment you create. And then of course, you also talk about freedom of speech, which connects to privacy and stuff like that. But I think, again, I'll go back to my answer with the privacy is, yes, I think that's putting those things in place. But whoever's involved with these folks, that you're involved and understand what they're doing online, and you put in the oversight that you see fit to ensure that that environment is safe. And that starts with you can't say you don't know what Roblox is, or you don't know it. You have to get engaged and meet them where they are. I think that would really help out a lot of things. Whoever is not necessarily a parent, whoever is vested in that individual's life.
That is so true. And it's interesting because I always say we talk about privacy because new technologies come out, but do we really have privacy in general? I even think about how TV ratings were, how they rate TV or radio, or like all of these things, and how they've been tapping into your viewership or your listening ability to listen to certain stations or through frequencies anyway. And I live in Atlanta. Atlanta is one of the most surveilled cities in the world. Well, definitely in the country, where there are cameras everywhere. But you think about in people's homes now, you have Google, you have Alexa, you have Apple, you have all of these devices that are listening in, and yet we screen privacy if we're on a particular game or platform. Do we ever really have privacy? And I'm just kind of throwing that out there. But we have about 5 minutes left, and we did talk about the responsibility that comes with creating experiences and emotion and memory, because that memory is there. But I want us to finish this conversation by giving our audience an understanding of what kind of digital worlds should we really be building for present and future generations. For me, as a mother who is has a child that has moderate support needs, that needs community at all times, distinguishing real from fake is very important. And having maybe an AI buddy to help navigate these scenarios, kind of like a protectorate or protector within all of these things that he uses, that's kind of like my dream. But I think about worlds where all children can be educated and not lack all of these things for faith, even like how could we build worlds that build up faith, healing, and well-being for us so that we can be more human. What kind of digital worlds, as we end, do you think we should be building? I'll start with Jeff.
Yeah, I think the world we got a sneak peek into it when the world shut down with the pandemic, and I think what we uncovered was even folks who call themselves introverts or whatever, that human connection was very important, and I believe that we uncovered what that world was going to be like, and now are living in it now. So I think we're already here with it. And I believe that I don't know. I'm trying to say this without sounding callous. I think that it's really just a byproduct of most people are going to do good in this environment. I think most people, their intention is to do good things in that space. I think it's a great place where resources can be. For example, I remember before it was very tough for people to be seeing a therapist or something like that. And now because of the pandemic, telehealing has really improved. And I think people have preferred that, and it's increased the number of people that get that kind of service. So I think those things will continue, especially as people create business models to do that. So as long as they're doing it, I know one of these other seminars talked about ikigai. As long as what you're doing for a living is for the good, and I think that's where we're at right now. I think the outcomes that those folks are looking to get will make those things happen.
Okay, Liam.
I would, I think there's the start of really great community spaces on all sorts of different topics. I would love to see all the platforms embrace and respond to those communities much more, which I generally see. Like I know somebody who does sobriety, like an AA type meeting in VR, and they don't feel very well supported by the platform that they use. I very much think your idea is great. I've heard that many times of building like worlds that are an alternative to the K through 12 textbooks for everyone. It's like I've used Khan Academy to brush up on things, myself and with friends. Like I would love to have something more engaging like that. I think those would be the most impactful and vital things we could do, is really focus on education and communities. So yeah.
And Sanjeet, finish us off and let us know what we should be building for present and future generations.
I think when it comes to building for the future generation, we should be building digital immersive experiences that educates awareness, and especially creates a constructive virtual environment where people can just feel safe and interact, and creating immersive educational environment that can spread awareness for social good, such as mental health challenges that we face. Creating immersive training environment that can train maybe whether social workers or clinicians or police officers and how to better handle mental health environment and be more aware, so we can increase help for those type of people. Other type of world I think we should be really creating is world for specifically for people that suffer autism and ADHD and neurodiverse challenges. Creating a separate, just individual world for them where they can interact with others, but also creating gamified environment where they can learn awareness that maybe other neurotypical people naturally have, where neurodiverse individuals have to acquire. So I think we should be really creating immersive worlds that spread awareness, that are for interactions, and that could really spread social good and really just change the way how we perceive reality, how we perceive society. The way I look at it is kind of like creating the Matrix, but for awareness.
I love that. And I thank you all, Liam, Sanjeet, Jeff, for joining this roundtable discussion. Thank you all, everyone, for gathering with us to talk about the power of XR creativity and extending the reality of health. I hope you really enjoyed it. As a mom of boys, this Men's Health Summit is a wonderful experience, and I hope that you learn a lot from being here with us. See you next time.
Hello and welcome to Gatherverse Men's Health Summit Day 2. And we are sponsored by Pico, but also we have an amazing fireside chat here with the amazing Anish. And we're going to be talking about Ikigai? I don't know how to say it, sorry. Clarity, harmony, and purpose in the hyperconnected world. And it's great to also have you with us as well, Anish. So please, if you could introduce yourself to everybody. And yeah, I'm really excited to be speaking with you in this fireside chat today.
Thank you so much, Russell. Am I audible? I hope.
Yes, you are. Loud and clear.
Yeah. Great. So, Russell, thank you for having me, and thank you, Gatherverse, for this opportunity to have a sort of heart-to-heart chat with regards to something which I really love, and it is called as Ikigai. Ikigai is basically a Japanese word, and it comes from a village called as, the entire concept comes from the village, a small island, Okinawa in Japan. And the whole idea of, if we break down Ikigai, Iki is basically life, and Kai is worth. So your life's worth, or why should I even get up in the morning out of bed? Why? What is the reason for being? Simple as that. So
Okay.
Ikigai is just something which is very close to my heart, and I'm here to share my thoughts, and feel free to ask me questions around it, and I will be more than happy to answer.
Oh, we have plenty of questions. Don't you worry about that. Let's start with one, which is obviously Ikigai is very interesting to me. This is a very interesting term. So tell us, what does Ikigai mean to you? And how did you even find it in the first place? I'm curious to maybe hear just like a little bit of a background to it kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So as I mentioned, Ikigai is, a Japanese word. And the whole idea of finding your Ikigai is all about, you want to do something which brings you in a state of flow. So let me just put it that way. Okay. So anything which makes you in a state of flow, where time dilates, where you lose track of whatever else is going around you, and you're simply engrossed in that activity. It could be anything. It could be dancing. It could be cooking. It could be doing a speech. It could be anything. Anything which puts you in a state of flow, and that is basically what Ikigai to me is. It also means to me, in terms of joy, the word is joy, I would say, it brings you in a joyful state. Now, joy for me is a slightly higher version of happiness. I would say perpetual happiness is what I consider as joy. So it's not that you are jumping all around, oh, I'm so excited. No, it's not like that. It's very subtle. But somewhere inside you, you feel very settled, very content, very very blissful in a way. So for me, it is like a joyful state. For me, it's more like putting you into a state of flow.
Putting you in a state of flow, and then I would say basically like you sort of like, you don't get the highs of the highs, but you also don't get the low of the lows. It's kind of like a state of flow that you're always in, and allows you to focus on whatever you need to focus on and be able to achieve whatever you want to achieve, so to speak, or whatever your goal is, or whatever you want to do kind of thing. So in a hyper-connected world like we have, we have social media, we have VR, we have AI, we have many different aspects which come into this. How do you stay in this state of flow, like the Ikigai, and how do you I wouldn't say battle against that, but kind of like stay within the boundaries of the flow state, so to speak?
So, Russell, let me just share a bit about my background, because it will just give the context of why I'm into this path and why I really love Ikigai, and why I'm so much eager to help people find their Ikigai. So it's about 20 years back. I just got my CA degree. I completed my CA program from India, and I was about to move to Australia. I was planning to do my MBA in accounting and finance in Australia. But I was lost in terms of my career direction. I was not very sure like what path I should be taking, what sort of career. Even if I got a qualified degree, the natural path would be to get into an accounting field, become a CA, practicing chartered accountant, or get into a job. But somewhere I felt very lost, confused, irritated, frustrated, and I changed about 6 jobs in a span of 9 months when I was starting off my career. And
sounds like me.
and I actually went to a lot of self-discovery mode. So I went into a lot of meditation program. I wanted to figure out like basically what it is. It's not just ticking the boxes, just ticking the checklist and okay, complete this. And it felt very monotonous to me. So I went into this self-discovery mode, and I went through a lot of meditation program. And sometimes what happens is, like 20 years back, I didn't even know the word Ikigai. I didn't even understand what that word meant. And sometimes what happens is you're trying to figure out what is your ideal path, or what God has designed for you. In a way, you're trying to figure it out. But sometimes your Ikigai is finding you. So sometimes you are chasing your purpose, but sometimes your purpose is chasing you. Okay. And in my case, what happened is a stranger came into my life, and I was teaching her accounting because that is what my background was. And I was teaching accounting to an engineering student. And she said something very dramatic, spontaneously. She said something to me that, Anish, wow, you have got a knack to simplify and inspire. Simplify the complex and inspire someone like me who don't understand accounting. So simplification and inspiration, or simplify and inspire people, became the two sort of legs of whatever I do, like whatever sort of training programs which I run. It became my sort of an ikigai, to simplify things and to help people, inspire people to lead a beautiful life.
Interesting.
So yeah, so to answer your question, in this sort of a world which we are living, AI driven world, and people are always chasing the next thing. They are just moving from, it's a lot of things which are going on in their mind. I would say that, is there something which pulls you towards designing your life, or are you pushing yourself by living by default? So that is the main question which I want to put it across, that is there something which pulls you to lead a beautiful life and design it step by step, or you are simply pushing your life day in, day out, 9 to 5, 9 to 7, whatever it is, just do the same again and again. There are a few other things which I strongly suggest people can, which work really well for me, is listening to strangers. Instead of simply like initiating a talk, interacting with strangers, sometimes they will give you certain insights. They will give you certain wisdom which you don't even know you have it in you, and they don't have any interest in your life. Okay, they are strangers, right? So they don't have any interest in your life, but they will say something spontaneous, and if you take it as a sponge, if you just let it sink in, it might be the most beautiful thing which might have happened in your life. So in my case, it was that girl who simply said, simplify and inspire. These are the two main things which you are really good at. So when you listen to strangers, when you travel, I love travel. When you travel,
I actually have a question, Anish.
Yeah.
What is because obviously, when you're talking about strangers and people and talking to people, do you find that when you're speaking to people, do they have like a big misconception on when they think about happiness or purpose or anything like that? Like, do you think a lot of people have that big misconception from your point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest misconception which I've I've heard people saying is that it's very hard. It's hard to figure out your own purpose. You have to go to the mountains. You have to be in solitude. You have to, just figure it out. It's very challenging to leave the world behind and simply just go and figure out your own purpose in life. But it's not the case. As I said, like sometimes, you don't even know that you're finding it out, and it just comes naturally in your life. So it's all about being patient. It's all about loosely focused on your purpose. Don't try to chase your purpose. It will never come. Let it happen naturally. But you have to focus in a very loosely manner. Okay, so you're focused, but it's very relaxed. It's a relaxed focus, and let it happen. Okay. Another misconception which I personally feel is someone saying, I think I found my ikigai and that's it. It's not the case. It always evolves. So as your life evolves, like 5 years down the line, maybe your ikigai, what you feel today, might be different, because 5 years down the line you have done certain things, you have built your skills in a certain area, and you feel that you have found some another love or passion in any other area of your life. So your ikigai is also evolving. Okay, it could be completely different, or it could be more refined. So you say, for example, I'm talking right now, I love to speak about ikigai, but later on, if I feel that apart from ikigai, I can actually take people into a deep meditative program, then it is a subset of what I'm doing right now. Okay, so it can be slightly more refined also. So it's like you simply go with the process. You go and follow that process, and it's not that you will only have one ikigai in life. Also, you can have multiple ikigai, but I would say one would be very, very strong, something which is very prominent. Okay,
right.
So that's the second misconception. And third is, as I've already touched upon before, that we sometimes feel that our family members or our near and dear ones or our friends, they know a lot about us. Okay, and let me ask them, what do you think about me? What should I do? We casually ask people whom we know.
What do they say? What do they say?
So surprisingly, what happens is, they know you so well that they will say, you're not good at that. Don't worry about it. Don't do this.
Okay.
Yeah? But strangers, that's where strangers comes, right? They don't know anything. They are seeing you. They watch you, what you're doing, the way you are speaking, the way you are using your hand gesture. They might just say something to you, and the penny just drops. Okay, so it's a matter of listening, keeping your senses open, okay, all the time. I also say stay close to nature. That is also a very good way of understanding. Just being close to the nature just helps you figure out a few things about yourself, because in a way we are also made of the 5 elements, and if you try and basically just connect with nature, it will also help you. So these are 2 or 3 misconceptions usually which I've heard from people. Yes,
that's very interesting. I mean, one of my friends also says, you have two ears and one mouth for a reason as well. So it's to your point. But I want to understand what practices bring calm and harmony to people in a constantly evolving world. I mean, we touched upon it briefly, just a minute ago, but I kind of want to, talk about the sort of the calm side of that. Like, how do you, like, with all this, dopamine hits from social media and, AI constantly wanting you to go, oh, do you want me to do this for you? Do you want me to do that for you? Do you want me to do this for you? How do we, practice that and constantly, stay in a state of flow, as you like to say?
Again, a very good question, Russell. So again, I will just answer it in a very simple manner, and something which I usually follow day in and day out. 2 things. One is travel in, and second is travel out. Okay. So travel out is basically just go and explore the world as 195 countries, right? See the world. It might just help you. You might just interact with someone. You might just see something. You might say, oh, maybe I really love art. I should get into it. Will just open up your brains like anything. When you're out of your comfort zone, what they say about comfort zone, that There is no growth in your comfort zone, and there is no comfort in your growth zone. So when you go out of your comfort zone, when you go out of your own, city, state, country, and then go out and just live. I do a lot of solo travel, so it helps you in a lot of ways. So travel outside, and then travel in, which is all about meditation. You pick any meditation, doesn't matter. It could be in a dance form, it could be in a mantra form, it could be something like just doing yoga and then just doing some sort of a meditation, chanting. It could be any form of meditation. It will help you, silence the chaos inside and just build some clarity. And what happens is, it's funny that the most the biggest challenge is how you can simplify complicated stuff, and it's very complicated to simplify things. Okay, so if you're able to simplify complex thing, and it will only come once there is a lot of clarity inside, once there is a lot of stillness inside. And meditation really helps you. I mean, I've designed my own meditation program, which I teach to a lot of people, but it's any meditation form. Okay, any form of meditation will really help you in terms of bringing calm and harmony in your life.
I can speak personally from meditation experience, and it does align you very well. It is a great form of not only keep you in line, but also allowing you to focus on what you want to focus on for the day. Even if you do it for 5 minutes, it still, just generally helps in general. I'm not sure about the Ikigai side, but, I could just say from that sort of limited experience that I have. So one last question, because we're running out of time, and I want to finish on this. What do you advise anyone who, who's getting into Ikigai, or wants to understand more about Ikigai, or even just general life advice you want to share with people before we finish the fireside chat? What's one last thing you'd like to advise people before we finish things up, basically, in a nutshell?
So there are two things which I would just, if I have to again just summarize, there are two things. One is obviously live by design, not by default. Okay. And second is you start listening more to your heart and silence your head. The more you listen to your heart, because heart is the very first, whenever you're trying to do something good or bad, your heart gives you a signal. Okay. And the more you listen to your heart, it just keep giving you those nudges. Okay. If you silence your heart, then your head overpowers you. And then it might not be the right path. It might look right in the short term, but in the long term, it might not be the right path. So listen more to your heart, silence your head, and live by design, not by default.
Well, Anish, thank you so much for joining us on this fireside chat. And also, quickly, where can people find you? Can they find you on your LinkedIn, or where can people find you, connect with you?
Yes, so I'm very much active on LinkedIn, and trainmybrain.in is my website. I'm more than happy to speak to as many people as possible. No issues. My pleasure.
Well, that's it for the fireside chat. Thank you, Anish, for joining. And up next, we have a roundtable discussion, and it's going to be a very interesting discussion. So stay with us, and I'll see you very shortly.
Thanks.
See you later. Gather as well.
Hello. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christian Brown. I'm excited to be your moderator for today's panel on the future man, what the next generation of men must know. I'm excited to be joined by a couple of men from around the world today. Hello, Brian, Russell. I'm sure we'll have a couple more guys pop on. Chris, welcome. And I'm excited for this conversation. I really believe it's important that we vocalize what's needed for the next generation of men to enter into a role of leadership and of ultimately humanity from a place of confidence, from a place of empathy, and from a place of really designing a life that they can truly be proud of. And so we have a nice number of questions today that we'll go over. But first, let's go around the horn really quickly, and can share a few words about yourself. And I also want to ask the question in one word. In one word, what must the future generation of men become? Let's get this thing started. Who would like to go first?
You're the moderator.
Sir Brian.
So...
Russell, yes.
No, I wasn't meant to speak first, so you could pick me. I was
Sir.
You're the moderator.
Too late, Russell.
Sir Brian.
Go first. Go ahead, Brian.
Hi, not sure if you can hear me. Can you?
Yeah, we can hear you
Okay.
loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. My name is Brian. Say Brian is a nickname for growing up being small and wanting to prove the big guys better on basketball. They nicknamed me Say Brian. But I just learned that Say Brian is a title given to someone. Anyone given the title Say has to have accomplished or made a difference in the world. So I'm all about making a difference, being a transformational speaker, youth pastor, and life coach. So the word that I have for men in our day and generation is men actually have to be self-aware and adaptable to the changes that are happening in the world.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Sir Brian. Russell.
Yeah, I'll go next. So hi everyone, my name is Russell. I am the Global Affairs Director at Gatherverse, also co-founder at Just Verify. And at Just Verify, we're focused on building the trust infrastructure for AI. And we're focused on verifying the model's performance and behavior, and making sure it's aligned with human values, and also verifying the performance and behavior of the models as well. So happy to be here. Also love obviously Gatherverse as well. And yeah, that's basically me in a nutshell, really.
Nice.
Wait, Russell, did you do your one word?
You do this every time to me, Christopher. For the future of men, I would say confidence and aspiration.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Russell. I'm sure we don't need a introduction from you, Christopher, but would love a few opening words from you on this panel.
Sure, I'm happy to be here, and thank you for allowing me to join your roundtable discussion, Christian, and to be here with these other men. It says a lot for us to be able to have the opportunity for us to sit here on stage together for this first of its kind men's summit. I'm the founder of Gatherverse, but I'm also a man. You know, we do all these events, and you know, we seriously advocate for women and women leadership, but we also do the same thing for men. So I think that's really important when it comes to men's health and women's health. It's just something I'm not going to shy away from, and so I'm really happy to be here with all of you. I would say the future word that I would use is protect. Right? I feel like as a man, you know, women protect, men protect, but I just feel as a man, you look after your own, you do right by people, and you help defend those that can't defend themselves, if you will. And so I think that's a really important thing, and do right by others and honor, and those are things that I think is also important in bravery. So thank you, Christian.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for sharing that. And the next question I want to dive into, I want to ask about the values that should define men in this next era. Before getting on the call today, I just went in and did some research with the help of our friendly large language models, and I noticed a few numbers that were a bit alarming when it comes to the health of our men. I think the first one that really stood out was that globally, men tend to die 5 to 6 5 to 6 years sooner than women, and globally over 70% of suicides in the world are men. The US Surgeon General said that loneliness is now considered more dangerous to men's long-term health than obesity or smoking, right? And so when I hear these things, for me it really intensifies the matter of men do need support. They need attention, and there needs to be a added value to their health. And so as you guys hear these numbers and think about this question of what values define the next generation of men, how can we turn these numbers around as men? What can we use from our lived experience to be able to speak into the next generation? And hello, Salvation, I see you just joined us. Welcome. Could you please just introduce yourself really briefly? And before you hopped on, we asked one question to the group, which was, what's one word that defines what the next generation of men should become?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good morning. It's evening here. So good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Salvation Chigeraka, and I'm a poet and a writer. I'm also a sister, so I'm really happy to be here to join you all. I would say one word would be care. I like to see more care in the male community. That's what I would say, one word, care.
Care. I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you. We're happy to have you on with us today. And so let's go around with this new question that we're going to lead with is what values should define the men in the next era. And we'd love to just hear from some lived experience in terms of what values have you implemented, maybe that have really set you on a different trajectory towards living a life as a healthy man. Let's go, Sir Brian. Let's start with you again.
Okay, thank you, Christian. Not sure why I get to always start, but I'm happy to start. So one of the things growing up was an insecurity. We grew up in a poor family, and therefore we moved a lot, went to different schools. So there was always this feeling of not having enough, not being enough, and having to do things to impress, the crowds and the friends. And it led me to lose myself because I constantly had to do something to make someone happy, but it was not what I wanted. So one of the things that I later on learned as I grew up is to become aware of who I am and to be confident in myself as a person, and to appreciate that I'm not going to make everyone love me, but I have to love myself first and be able to take care of myself. So I would say integrity, knowing what is right for you and standing by it, regardless of other people's opinions, because people always tell you. So integrity, having the responsibility for yourself, your choices, your decisions, and being responsible for also the influence of others on you and the influence that you give on others, and being aware that there's always things happening around you, but they don't necessarily have to affect you negatively. You can choose to empower yourself and to react, to plan to act than to react always. So emotional intelligence, so that's some of the values that I would say: responsibility, integrity, self-awareness, and accountability, and just to love others as you love yourself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It sounds like all of those values that you named, they stem from first a place of loving yourself. And then once you love yourself, understand yourself and who you are, then go out and show that same care for others. So thank you for sharing that, Brian. Russell, what about you? What values have you learned to implement into your life that have helped you become a more healthy man and individual?
Well, Brian said quite a few things there, but I will just add to it. I would say risk taken. I think people don't think about that, and you have to take risks in life in order to be able to get back up again and learn, so to speak. So I would say risk taken. Also remain curious as well. Always constantly be learning and adapting and changing. And also just make sure that you have full confidence in your abilities and trust your instincts as well. I think people forget about that too, in terms of, trusting if something's wrong, then, there's something wrong, basically. So yeah, I think those are just a few things I would add. Again, as Brian was saying, accountability, confidence, and also just also setting goals for yourself too, like having something to achieve, like I was saying about aspirational before, like having something that you want to focus on, you want to do in your life, whether that's a legacy, whether that's health, whatever it is that you want to achieve. Just make sure that you're able to focus on that things and are able to achieve those things too, so it keeps you moving forward and also self-improvement as a man. So those are the few things I would just add, really.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad you mentioned legacy. We're gonna dive into legacy as well later in this conversation. But I want to bring up the next question, focusing on our young men in the world today. How can they learn to listen, to learn, to understand before they lead? Christopher, how about you take a shot at this?
Yeah, I think this is a good question, because I was always taught you have 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen to more than what you talk. And I feel like there's a lot of people that want to take the leadership role and position, and it's not that their intent is it's not in the right place. It's that their capability is not there yet. And I feel I would say as a more mature man, I've come to appreciate how many other men that I've been under that have helped raise me and really guided me, and really helped just give back so freely. They never asked anything in return. It wasn't transactional. They just took time that they won't get back, and they gave me time to lend to me through mentorship and guidance, and really how to make better decisions and how to carry myself as a man, because, there's a lot of influences in pop culture and in media on what a man could be. And I think that there's a lot of negative influences out there. And I'm so thankful that I didn't have to have been raised by media, right? I didn't have to get raised by someone on the screen, but I had real humans with real hearts, people that I knew, people that I love, that, brothers and, uncles and just, strangers that I've come to appreciate, that just took that time. Because I was always taught, give back freely that which is given unto you. You could look at that secular and sacred. And so for me, when I think about, as we sit here at this intersection of emerging technologies and humanity, thinking about this question, I believe that there's a lot more ways to connect with different people, whether it's in localization or around the world, in which you can learn a lesson from, and it can bring and promote a tremendous amount of gratitude for understanding from other people's perspectives. Because I'll say this and be done with it. If you want to lead, a lot of it, and we talk about listening, the reason we listen, and the big part of it, is we shouldn't have to go through the challenges that others have gone before if we listen to the lessons that they learned. And if we can mitigate that doesn't say that we're going to be apart from learning a hard lesson or a challenge. You're going to have that regardless. But why go through the same challenges as someone else has had to go through? And why can't it be a little bit different so that we can continue to climb? If somebody already gave you the blueprint and the roadway up to the mountain, take that path, because there's a lot of things that had to happen for them to give you that blueprint.
Yeah, so powerful there, Chris. And as you were speaking, I was thinking of an African proverb that says, it actually says, smart men learn from their own mistakes, wise men learn from the mistakes of others. and foolish men never learn.
Wow.
Right. And so there's a sentiment to really listening and understanding from others, from yourself, and making sure that you're not just repeating the same patterns. Because I think we can all agree is that life will move in patterns, and you'll find yourself experiencing things over and over again until you decide to make a new decision and choose a different route and path. And so with this question of listening before leading, I think listening is external, you listening to other people, but there's also this inner knowing, this inner self that you also should listen to. And Salvation, you as a poet, right? I'm a fellow poet myself. A lot of writing comes from that inner dialogue that happens within your mind. So what is some value that comes from value and strategies that one can get about listening to their own self, and really spending time with themselves and seeing what's there in their mind before going externally to be fed into by other people?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kristen. So I would just add that in listening, you get understanding, and then in understanding, you get to learn, and in learning, you get to discover. So I think that men should seek to be humble enough to listen, enough to understand. We're in the world where people just listen and take it too quick without digesting. And I think it should be in a way that you listen to understand, and then you understand to discover yourself, because leadership is a process. It doesn't just happen instantly. So I think in a world where men can listen more to understand and not be too quick to be Jay-Z, yeah, so that would be really, really helpful in being a good leader.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad you mentioned the word humility, which was the first time that we heard that word on this call. But I would say that humility is definitely one of those values that men in the next generation should implement into their lives, because humility says, I know I don't have all the answers. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to be led. Right. Which is what we need. And so with this next question, thinking about lessons, what lessons do you all think that men should pass forward to the next generation? Let's start with you, Russell. What lessons should men pass forward to the next generation?
I think definitely life experiences for sure. Also, when it comes to your abilities and what you've learned, I think skills is also important to pass them on to. And also, when you're talking about like your emotions and basically being able to control your emotions and not letting your emotions over control you and stuff like that too, I definitely think that's important too. In basically being able to stay grounded, right? No matter what the situation is or where you are or what's happening, that you're going to be okay whatever happens, and that you're going to become stronger and become better out of it. So I'll say maybe those are the few things that I can think of the top of my head. Honestly, there's a lot, but I would say those are sort of the three main things, really, to be honest.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you mentioned skills too, and when you said that, it made me think back to our fearless leader, Chris. Christopher, we've seen you out in the field, literally, outdoors in different. I think I saw you even going to a detention center, but I've seen that you made that a priority of yours to actually get out and touch the land, touch the earth, and actually meet with young men face to face to pour back into them, teach them the lessons that you've learned throughout your time in this space. And so, two questions in regards to that. For one, what's your intention behind doing that? And then what are some of the lessons that you made sure to give to those young brothers that we saw you with online?
Yeah. So thanks for asking this question. And I did notice when Russell said skills as well, that really stuck out for me, because I think universally two things you want to be able to lend to your fellow man, if you will, to humankind, but to men as well is skill. I'm a second generational technologist in a home in a neighborhood where you didn't see a technologist in my neighborhoods where I grew up from in Oakland, California. And so to be able to see my dad do it, I knew that I could do it because it became real. And then the other thing is a favorable disposition that you want to lend unto others, right? And so people are watching and people will believe more of what you do than what you say. And so I think that really matters. And then and that can be applicable through skills as well. My intent for going out into these communities is to show as a living blueprint of something that I feel like it would be great for others to do. And if you want to be in service to humankind, which I think is so important to be a servant leader, this is how you serve. And I think through media, it allows us to show what we can do when we take a few hours out of our lives and give back to those which are just looking for, they're not, in this today's world of AI, there's so much information that our young people have. You don't have to give them as much as you used to give them in terms of guidance. What you can do, and one of the best things you could do, I've come to appreciate in mentorship, Christian, from my experience, is to just show them which road to go. There's 12 roads in front of them, and they just want to know the way, and they got it from there. And they wanted, and getting that guidance, people are so appreciative just to say, I just need you to show me the way. I need help. And being around these young minds, especially these young men, the reaction I've gotten from them, because it doesn't convey on platforms like LinkedIn or Instagram, is one, they understand to some degree the world that they're in. And they're very smart. And we don't want to eliminate the capability of creativity of their own. And if you can say something to help unlock something that's already within, as you said, Christian, within, I think a lot of benefit and value is to be understood what's happening inside you. And to get people to see that, Russell, to understand that there's so many things that you can do, you have no idea that you can do. See, the road is not external, the road is internal. And that's what you want to get people to do, is not to see an external road for them, but to look within, to find that road within, to understand there's things that you could do right within your own heart and mind that you have no idea that you're capable of. Until you're challenged in that situation. There's things that happen to us in life where we're challenged. And there's something that prevails within. What is that? So I just think it's important in this world for human preservation. And then ultimately, I think as of late, my intent has been that if we don't teach the future generation of, and I'll say this as men, if we don't teach them, then something else will.
Yeah. So powerful. So powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Chris. And I'm one of those I guess I would say young men that have been poured into by you. I remember our first time meeting in person, and you asked me questions like, do you know how to fish? Do you know how to eat, how to get your own food and make a meal if you have to, right? And I'm like, do I need to know how to do those things, right?
I feel like I've had that conversation with you and Russell at times.
Russell too. Okay, that's how Russell.
But it's serious. I think.
Yeah, you're not the only one.
Okay. Well, I think in society, I think and I have to keep it real. I know we're in live. There's a lot of people at Gatherverse.live and other social platforms right now. But I'm an advocate for women's leadership, but I'm still a man, and I was raised a man. And I think there's just certain things that men should learn how to do. And I'm not saying that women shouldn't. I think they should. There's a lot of things women, for some reason, men think that women can't do the things we do. But as a man, I don't shy away from that. That's real. As a man, I think there's things we should learn naturally how to do as men. And that's the way I've been taught. And I'll stand 10 toes on that all day.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's real. It made me open my eyes and question how I can show up better as a man. So I appreciate that. Even as me and Russell laugh about it now, it's real. We we need those skills because we do have a purpose and power as men, just as women have a purpose and power as women.
That's right.
And on this question, I want to go back to Brian because I see you're a transformational speaker. And when I see transformational speaker, it makes you realize that there's something that had to be transformed within you in your own life to be able to even claim that title, right? But then also pastor, life coach. Those are all terms that symbolize teacher. And so as you're teaching people, and let's focus on men here, as you're teaching them, what are some lessons that you try to pass forward to those under your teaching?
Okay, I really appreciate Christopher teaching the young men, young boys, men to be able to cook and do certain things. A man was blessed with the ability to use his strength and hands to be able to create, to be able to protect, to provide. But many times we only stick to the role of being provider. We only play one role. Earlier on, you spoke about how men actually don't live as long as women do, and how men are more lonely and depressed more than actually women. And one of the biggest things that I've gotten to learn is the ability to be able to communicate and to reach out when you need help. So one of the biggest lessons that we are advocating for men now is to reach out, to form men's group, to have discussions like this, platforms like this, where we actually discuss as men. Because there's a proverb that also one of my favorite proverbs says, young traveler, listen to the one who has gone before you, for he knows the twists and thorns along the highway. Otherwise, you get yourself in the thorns. So we need to actually listen to a generation that has been before us. We might be in the AI generation. We might be in a different whole time zone, but it's still the same issues that are still affecting us as men. The ability to handle our emotions, be able to communicate, speak out, be able to reach out when you need help, because we only reach out when we are in a, let's say, sports bar, watching football, drinking beer, and then we're like, this, and we always give each other this advice that a man has to do this, a man has to do this, but not actually dealing with the actual problem or the actual facts of the matter. So the biggest lesson is to be able to sit down, ask for help, reach out when you need help, and be able to say, okay, how can I do things better, not only for myself, but for those around me and for the generation to come. It's not just about paying the bills, providing for the family, but I need to leave a mark and a legacy.
Yeah, so good, Brian. Thank you for sharing that, and I agree. It sounds like having intentional communities for men is very important, and it's something I spoke on day one when Christopher asked me a question about are there enough resources for men today, and the answer was yes. There are enough resources. There's enough information, but we need more communities. We need more spaces for men to be able to sit and chat with each other freely and vulnerably, right, before it gets to a crisis moment, before they hit burnout. Right. And that's kind of gets into preventative care, right? How can we prevent some of these issues from happening? Right. How can we prevent some of these, some of the violence that happens from men just not being healthy? Right. And I think one way to prevent that is, as we get to our next question, is mentorship. We talked a lot about values. What values can we give to younger men? What lessons can we teach them? Who do they need to become? But mentorship is one of those things that can be just the act of hand holding, right? That young men may need, and also older men can learn from as well, right? Mentorship should be reciprocal. But Salvation, I'm gonna come to you. When you think about mentorship, what role do you think mentorship plays in nurturing our young men and humans today?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think this question is very important to me. Like, it's special right now in my heart because while we're having this conversation, I'm recalling my days at home with my dad. I know we're talking about the men, but I'll just say in context as a lady that it's a very important one. I think mentorship started with my dad. I started writing today because of my dad. He studied English and literature in school, and then he's a writer. So when he wrote most of his state consign as an article to the press, he would just share with me and say, "Read this. What do you think?" And I started picking an interest in writing, and I loved it. And I think in my career and my personal life, what has really helped me has been mentorship, has been the guidance of somebody above me telling me, "Oh, Salvi, don't do this. Oh, Salvi, okay, what you want to do is nice. How about you try this one?" Okay, and I bring a consign, and the person says, "Oh, this is that, that is this." It has really helped me guide me in a way that I would have not discovered on my own, because that experience from somebody who is ahead of you, it's important. And that's where mentorship comes to play a very key role. It's very important, even as a man, that you have somebody that can guide you. And I'll bring back the word humility. It's also knowing that once a mentor says something, you listen, you say, "Oh, I want to be better because this person is definitely better than me, has something that I admire, and I really want to, work with this person, listen from this person." And then I also bring in a little bit context on community you mentioned before. And if there's more community of mentors for men, I think we'll start having a better society for men. And let me pick a little bit from what Chris said on the social media morality. And a lot of people are saying a lot of things right now on the internet. And then where there's a guided community of mentors that has proven with their life experiences, you know that you're listening to people who has walked the path. That's where mentorship comes in place. And as men, it will be so beneficial to have a community of mentors. The importance is so much. It's so much. The benefits are enormous. Yeah. And I think it plays a very major key part in the development of a man. Mentorship does.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for sharing that. And it's so cool, the story about your father. I think sometimes all it takes is for older men to say, "Hey, take a look at this, right? Let me show you this. Come here with me," right? It's just that the willingness and to be open and to invite someone else along the journey that can do so much for a younger person, right? Whether
Can I
it's someone
can I
in, yeah,
can I say something
please
that too?
come,
Why I think
yeah,
that's
cool.
so important? What Salvi just shared with us is
Yeah.
because who raised her father to be that way?
Her father,
His
yeah, his
father.
father, yeah, his father, yeah.
This is why we talk about these things, because we're sitting here. Say, here's a woman that's on a men's health summit. She should be giving that testimony. That her words and what inspired her to move that way was from her dad, but who taught him to be such a way to teach and be with her daughter? We don't connect those dots. There's somebody that raised him. Now, it may have been a woman. It may have been a woman, because women have played a proactive role, especially in our Black communities, of raising men, right? I understand that. So I sit there and have appreciation when we think about the question of mentorship and guidance. We're teaching men to be men, also to be men to raise daughters and sons. And she's a testimony of being raised by what seems to be a good man.
Yeah, so good. Love that, Christopher. Thank you for connecting those dots for us, allowing us to see that, because I wasn't even thinking yet about, her father was also, raised to be the person that he is for her, right? And now, Sal, you're going to continue to be a mentor for someone else, right? And so it's like that. There's a ripple effect of good mentorship, good leadership. So thank you for sharing that, both Christopher and Sal. I appreciate that. And let's keep it going. And so again, we're going to talk about listening here, and listening and care. I know someone spoke about care earlier as well. So how can men listen and care in ways that change the world around them? Russell, let's bring you back. What are your thoughts on this question?
I just wanted to also touch upon the mentorship side, because I also think there's something else that we're forgetting on that aspect. There's also different mentors in different areas of your life, right? Someone can teach you to be an exceptional businessman, but another man might teach you to be an exceptional fisherman. So there's different mentors for different areas in life. And in order to have all those I guess, skills, if you want to call them, or whether that's for your own mental health or your mental wellness or how you control your emotions, etc. That's important to have those in different areas. Like, for example, I have a mentor at gym, right? I have a business mentor. I have a business partner mentor, right? I have all different mentors around me. So it's all about surrounding yourself with the best people you possibly can to be able to mentor you in different areas of your life, and then be able to then improve all those different areas of your life to make you become the best person that you can be, so that you can then mentor the next generation. So it's a knock-on effect. But anyway, I just wanted to add that to what we're speaking about. So
yeah, thank you. And let's follow up on that too, because I want to get to the how around finding a mentor, right? I think universally is known that mentorship is good. But what is some advice on steps that a young person, any person, can take to seek out a mentor, whether it be for business, whether it be for health, whether it be for relationships? What's some advice on how to take that step to find a good mentor?
Well, 2 steps, I would say. Number one is seeing where that person is at life, as in, like, what is their lifestyle, what have they achieved in their own life, where are they at in their own life? Like, if the guy is at the gym, does he have a 6-pack? Does he have muscular arms? Or if he's a fisherman, how many fish has he caught? Has he caught the biggest fish in the world? Right? Those give you achievements that you can go by to say, okay, this person could mentor me in that area. So that's number one. And number two also is you've got to get along with that mentor too. So you also need to test them in terms of ask them questions of, like, how did you get there? Or what happened in your own life that got you to there? Or what is your relationship like with your other friends? Do you have other friends, great friends around you? Just asking the right questions that you can qualify in order to then be able to find the right mentor for you. I would say that would be number two, is qualifying, but also seeing what they've achieved in their life. And then that will allow you to then find the right mentors for you, whether that's through social media, whether that's through, your friends group, whether that's when you're out at, like, the gym yourself, and then you just happen to meet someone who's already a coach there. So I would say those are a few different things that you can do and how you can find the right people to surround yourself with, basically.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I agree 1,000%. So thank you for sharing that, Russell. And
My pleasure.
yeah, thank you. And so I want to get into the next question. We can send it over to Brian. The question again, how can men listen and care in ways that change the world around them?
Okay. Thanks. Okay. When listen, someone said it at some camp, and they were speaking to youngsters, and they said, "Do you know that the word listen is exactly the same with the word silent? They're just different. The letters are aligned differently, but it's exactly the same." So many times we listen not to actually hear what the other person is saying, but we listen to reply or to respond. So I would say that listening we have to be silent, to silent our preconditioned thoughts or experiences or whatever we think we know, and listen from not a place of judgmental or from a place of correcting or writing or telling them what's right or wrong or whatever, proving you know better or anything, but actually listening to try and understand where they are coming from and asking the right questions. And by asking the right questions, then we expand our own, because we obviously have blinkers. We judge everything based on our own experiences, what we know. But when the other person is talking about what they know and they have experience, we are quickly to judge them or to just close it out. But they have so much to share for us. So I would say we need to be able to ask the right questions and silent our thoughts, anything else that we've known, and to really be aware of what the other person is saying, what is going on around us, and be able then to say, okay, this is how I can contribute positively. And with that, I recently did a talk on mentorship, because we're implementing it in one of the schools where the grade 7s are mentoring the grade 6 going downwards. And when we talk of mentoring, mentorship, the acronym is modeling. M is for modeling the right behavior. So I lead by being an example. And then E is for empowering others. I have to empower others to rise to the level that I am. And then nurturing is I have to do it from a point of love, a point of care, building the character and confidence of those under me. And then T is teaching. I have to be able to communicate well so that they actually learn teaching. And then O is offering. I have to be willing to say, okay, here I am. How can I hold your hand so that I move you from where you are to where you need to be? And then R is basically reminding. We need reminding. We need to be reminded of the potential we have. Russell spoke about taking risk. We need to be reminded that we can actually take a risk and transcend whatever we think we know or the level. And then S is just supporting. I'm there for you. That's what we need. Men, be there for each other. And H is helping. I have to be able to help others navigate the challenges. Maybe they're going through what I went through. I need to helping each other. And then I is inspiring. I need to live a life that gives something positive to the next generation. And then P is basically we have to prepare for the next generation. So it all comes to listening in a caring way and using mentorship. But all the words are just going back to listening and being able to bring about change in the world around us.
Oh, incredible. Thank you for sharing that acronym on mentorship. I think it's powerful when we can give the actual blueprint for how to show up for others in the role of mentorship. So thank you for sharing that, Brian. That's super powerful. And I want to dive deeper into the care aspect of this question. I want to bring it over to you, Christopher, because I know empathy is something that is a word that, thank you, Brian, for putting that in the chat. We'll have to add in the comments for the audience as well. But Christopher, I know empathy is a word that's close to your heart. I mean, when we first met, you challenged me often to make sure that I build from a place of empathy. And I really admire that and value that. So what do you think about this? How can men care? How can they show care and actually live and truly care for people in ways that can change the world around them? And what does caring even look like in this sense?
That's a very powerful question. Because I know that Salvi talked about she'd like to see more men care.
Yeah, she did.
And I understand that that's a very subjective expression, but to care, I think that care has to start within first. And I see many people on this stage I care about because I've known some of you for years. Yourself, Christian, and Russell. I care for Salvi, Kalpesh, and them that are behind the scenes that people don't see. I care for them. And I really feel like if you are in a position of leverage or to lead, I think to lead is to guide. To care, I think, is motivated by inspiration. You don't know when you meet somebody for the first time in life that some people you meet, they'll hold a place in your heart forever. That comes by way of inspiration, and the relationships that's bonded. I feel like to the question though, how can men listen and care in ways that change the world around them? I don't know if my care is appreciated because I've come to appreciate, Christian, that people have their own understanding of what care means. And unfortunately, we live in a world where sometimes the colloquialism of abuse could be seen as care for others. You get some men that were raised in a household where a man would harm them, beat them, and they are led to believe that that's care. And then that man turns around and does the same infliction onto others, and that woman, if you will, or that person will say, well, he does that because he cares for me. I'm taking this to a real level because care is not care. The definition of the meaning of care does not translate to others well. And we can make it, flowers and butterflies if we want, but I think the care is so subjective now in this world, and I think it's been bastardized and misrepresented in such a harmful way that I think we have to find a better definition and understanding of what care means. So for me, it starts, for me personally, it's spiritual. Someone, a comforter, that somebody's caring for you, that takes in your interest and consideration of what's best for you in a way that does not bring harm to you. So I'm saying to the men and women that are listening and watching right now, that if somebody brings harm to your life and they take and extractive structures they take rather than give, that is not care. To care is to show up and to bring value to your life, bring benefit to your life, and to help promote growth within in a good way. So I think the understanding naturally has to be reset so that we're on the same page of what care for us. Because somebody says, I care for you. But then what happens is you're in a relationship and you say, I care for you. Your care is not being reciprocated the way that they're reciprocating to you. And so now there's a clash because they don't care for you the way that you care for them. But that's the way they've been raised to care. So I think at the end of the day, when we talk about in what ways can men listen and care in ways that change around the world, listen to your environment and listen to those people that are with you, around you, to understand how they want to be cared for. And then see if you can always be better on how you care about somebody. So you talked about empathy, Christian, and that's exactly where I'm getting at, is to better understand the people that you care for in the environment, the planet, how the planet wants to be cared for, how your community wants to be cared for. Right? So I can go on and on. There's a lot of things that we do and a lot of initiatives that we put out there that sometimes people never ask for. And so I think that listening, again, promotes a better understanding on how to better address the situation at hand. And so,
yeah, so good. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Chris. And as Lynn just put in the chat here, I agree. Care is relative depending on your upbringing, but just setting a baseline. If care takes from you, brings violence into your life, it's important to realize that that's not care, right? If it's harming you in that way, that's not care, and it's okay to unlearn something in order to relearn, a way that is healing, right? We're talking about health here, right? Unlearning and relearning is a part of.
That's real.
Yeah, that's part of the
I learned some of that. I learned some of that from you, Christian. I mean, that's real. Mm-hmm. Just right.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. So now, thank you for sharing that, Chris. And now I think this is a beautiful segue, right? Because as humans, as men, even in Salvi, you hear representing as a woman, we all have a responsibility. Right. We all have a responsibility in how we show up for those around us and how we show up in the world. We have a responsibility to show up with empathy and show up with care. But in this age of choice, I like that phrase, in this age of choice where we are free to do many things. What does responsibility look like when we think about health and care and empathy for others? Salvius, for you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I would say the word commitment because it's really dynamic in this question, relates to it in a very dynamic way. I think responsibility somehow is commitment because we cannot say somebody is responsible without them being committed to anything. Yeah, so I would say that it should be commitment to relationships, commitment to your goals, commitment to your talents. Like recently, I've discovered that I want to go back to the things I love doing. I need to be committed to those things, right? I picked up the guitar. I got a guitar for my birthday last October, And I said, every week, 2 hours every week, I'm going to be learning how to play the guitar. I need to struggle to learn how to play the guitar every week, 2 hours. So that's commitment. Commitment in our personal agendas, commitment to our families, commitment to the aspirations and dreams we have individually as people and then as men. I know in the society unit, men are more given to the responsibility of taking care of others, right? But then you need to be able to know that, okay, for me to be able to achieve so many things, I need to be able to commit to these things. So I think one word to summarize: be responsible in the universe of choices that we have now, with lots of policies and everything, with lots of communities in tech and all this initiative of different events we go to. I'd say the men generally, what I would just say for the men, needs to be commitment to their aspirations, to their dreams, to be able to be more responsible. Yeah, because I don't think the word responsible goes on its own without commitment.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Salvi. I agree 100%. Commitment is important. And when you say commitment, I also thought of the word consistency, right? Because in order to commit to something, you have to show up consistently. Chris, you know so much about that. You know so much about that. So thank you for sharing that, Salvi. And we have a couple more minutes left. This has been such a great conversation. I appreciate all of your time, 100%. And so I want to end with this question, another kind of popcorn question for everyone in the group. And the question is, what is one truth every man must confront to evolve? And we'll start with Brian and go Russell, Chris. We'll go Russell, Salvi, and end with Christopher. So Brian, what is one truth that every man must confront in order to evolve?
Life goes on. That's the life goes on, regardless of circumstances. You might be at a bad place, life goes on. You might be at a very, like, everything is going well, life goes on. You need to constantly know that change is happening and be prepared for the good, the bad, but life goes on.
Amazing. Thank you, Brian, for that. And thank you for your time and joining us. Really appreciate it. Russell, let's go to you. What's one truth that every man should confront in order to evolve?
You know, this reminds me of a young entrepreneur that I met in Portugal. And he was asking me, he was like, one of the things he kept asking me was he was responsible for these 10 people under his company, but he wasn't able to control his emotions. And he just basically just kept losing his cool all the time and, you know, getting angry with his team and everything like that. So one truth every man must confront to evolve is being able to handle his emotions. Not necessarily, I'm saying don't feel the emotions. Like if you get angry, go to the gym, punch a bag, something like that. Go whatever you want to do. But one thing you need to be able to do is to, in a nutshell, control your anger. Right? Control your emotions, as in don't lose your cool, in a nutshell. So that's what I would say is basically your emotions.
Yeah, control. Yeah, so powerful. And that hits so close to home because me not being able to articulate, first understand my emotions is what led me down my journey of going to therapy and getting into the mental wellness space. So thank you for sharing that. And Salvi, let's go to you. What's one truth that you think every man must confront in order to evolve?
I'm sitting down here and I'm trying to recall what my dad would say in this situation or in this question or answer. And I think one thing that stood out to me earlier on this question was identity. You must confront your identity, where you come from, who you are, and who you want to become. I think it's one thread that can align with you anywhere you are in the world, your identity.
Your identity. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Salvi. And thank you for your time and joining us, Russell, you as well. Christopher, let's wrap it up here. For you, what is one truth that every man must confront in order to evolve?
That you cannot do it alone. I don't care who you are, who you think you are, what confidence and bravado and machismo that you have. As a man, we can often be nomadic. I think it's thematic of this summit. You know, men are very alpha, a lot of men are. and we feel as if we don't need help with anything. I can open up the bottle. I can fix this cabinet. I can do all these things. I can plunge. I can fix this car. I can do all these things. And listen, in the reality of things, if you want to evolve, you will never evolve alone. And at every step of the way, you'll need someone to be able to help guide you to that next step. And that's real talk. And I think we find ourselves in a potential world when we believe that we can do it alone. And that's a hard lesson I've had to learn. As much as I don't like asking people for things, as much as I don't want this help, it's brought me to my knees. And by giving grace, I know that I need help, and I've come to appreciate that. I'm thankful for the help that's given. And I say that with a humble heart. That's real. So I cannot do this alone. And I've come to appreciate that I don't want to do it alone. So that's what I have.
Yeah. Amazing. So good. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Chris, Brian, Russell, Salvi, Gatherverse team. Thank you again for putting on another summit, global summit. Another one. It's been so many. But shout out to the GV team. And thank you, everyone, for watching. I would say our gather was well.
Thank you, Christian. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye.
I can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. And we did not do this alone. Thank you for participating in our 35th Global Gatherverse Summit. The Men's Health Summit 2025, Day 2, has now concluded. There was much said from different hearts and minds that spoke across from around the world at this incredible intersection of emerging technologies and men's health. We talked about the need to go see the doctor. We talked about the need to mind our weight. We talked about the need for mentorship and guidance and compassion, for keeping our cool and not being so angry. To know that we don't have to go about it alone in this world. We talked about the express benefit of having a mentor in our lives and to give back that which was given unto us, as I've been taught. We've talked about incredible technologies such as extended reality and artificial intelligence and all different types of technologies that play a proactive role in the grooming and the raising and keeping sustainable health for men. We talked about women's health. We talked about that relationship between men and women and the benefit therein. And we even talked about men that have been groomed well, that have raised daughters and sons. Here at Gatherverse, we go and explore a myriad of different subjects and topics. You never really know what type of summits that will arise, but we do this as a focal point to understand that we live in an extremely diverse world where so many things are happening, a plethora, and we want to cover as many topics as we can. We meet at this intersection with our standards of humanity and accessibility and education and the real consideration of equality and community development and the value therein. And we talk about safety and privacy and trust and ethics and wellness and well-being. We don't just talk about these things. We assemble people around the world that live these things. It means something to us. We're so thankful to our sponsors at Pico who have seen the value of Gatherverse and what we bring month in and month out. We do our level best to make sure that each of you that come to speak at Gatherverse and attend at gatherverse.live, who's sitting here right now, that we provide value in the preservation of human expression and humanizing technology, one conversation at a time. We hope that this week has been a good spend of your time, and we are always mindful that this is time that you'll never get back, and we are grateful. We have our food summit, our money summit, and our book summits coming up next to close out the year. There's so much that's going to be unpacked when it comes to that. Tell a neighbor, tell a friend. These are important discussions and highlight topics. I've never seen more of an important time to have a discussion on currency. I've never seen more of an important time to have a discussion on food and nourishment and sustainability and natural resources. And I certainly have not seen a better time to have a discussion on authorship and bookmaking and the preservation of expressions that come from the hearts and minds of humankind or from a neural network. We are in a different time. Lastly, I'll leave you with this, that if we don't have health, we have nothing. And with Gatherverse, we do these summits to let you know, as much as we really enjoy talking about technology and hyperscale and the incredible innovations that are happening across the world daily at a time that we've never seen such acceleration before, we want you to know that we'll always care more about you than the wonderful and terrific and incredible technologies and products that you make. We'll take a human heart always first. And with that, our gather was well. And when we meet again, may our gather be well.
Not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun. Well, I got one foot on the platform, the other is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy, and God